Captain Zixtal clicked his mandibles together in frustration. The scanner readings made no sense. His mining ship, the Prophet's Edge, had been searching the forbidden sectors for 3 weeks now, and all they had found were rocks and radiation. His crew was getting restless. His investors would be angry. The Vexum captain was about to order a return to civilized space when his navigation officer chirped urgently. "Captain, we have something. It's big." Zixal's compound eyes focused on the display. There, drifting in the eternal darkness between stars, was a massive structure. It was easily 3 kilometers long, shaped like a cylinder with strange geometric patterns along its hull. The metal was old, corroded by centuries of cosmic radiation, but it was intact. "What is it?" Zixtal asked. His science officer, a floating gas bag creature named Fel, pulsed with curious colors. "Unknown design, Captain. The architecture doesn't match any known species in the database. Energy signatures are minimal, almost dead. But there's something. The reactor core is still active, barely." Zixtal felt his instincts warning him. The forbidden sectors were forbidden for a reason. Ancient wars had been fought here. Dangerous weapons were left behind. The Galactic Coalition had rules about exploring these areas, but the ship looked intact. If they could salvage even a fraction of its materials, they would be rich. "Send a probe," he ordered. The probe launched and crossed the distance in minutes. Its cameras transmitted images back to the Prophet's Edge. The hull was covered in strange symbols, letters that looked primitive, yet somehow purposeful. The probe found an airlock and began scanning. Captain Fel said, his voice trembling with something between fear and excitement. "I found matches in the historical database. These symbols, they're ancient. Very ancient. This is writing from the first expansion era." Zixtal felt his blood run cold. The first expansion era was 800 years ago. It was the time when the galaxy was young, when species first began exploring beyond their home systems. It was also the time of the Great Wars, before the hierarchy brought order. "Can you identify the species?" Zixtal asked. Fel was silent for a long moment. "Captain, the database lists this as Terran human, but that's impossible." The bridge went silent. Every member of the crew turned to look at Fel. Humans were myths. Every child in the galaxy knew the stories. They were the monsters from ancient tales, the warriors who never stopped fighting, who turned their own bodies into weapons. Parents told their children about humans to make them behave. Scholars dismissed them as propaganda from the old wars, exaggerations meant to scare enemy species into surrender. "Humans aren't real," Zixtal said, but his voice lacked confidence. "The historical records say they were real," Fel replied. "They came from a system called Sol. They appeared during the first expansion, made contact with several species, then vanished. Most scholars believe their homeworld was destroyed in some catastrophe. Others think they never existed at all." Zixtal stared at the image of the ancient ship. If this was truly a human vessel, it was worth more than any mineral they could mine. Museums would pay fortunes. Researchers would fight each other for access. But more than that, Zixtal felt the pull of curiosity. What if humans had been real? What if this ship held answers to one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries? "I'm going aboard," he announced. His crew protested, but Zito was firm. He took 2 security officers with him and crossed to the ancient vessel in a small shuttle. The airlock was old, but functional. With some work, they managed to open it. The interior was dark and cold. Their lights cut through the blackness, revealing corridors that were strangely narrow compared to modern ships. Everything was built at a smaller scale, meant for creatures who walked on 2 legs and stood about 2 meters tall. "Life support is offline," one security officer reported. "The atmosphere is present, but frozen. The temperature is 200 degrees below zero." They moved deeper into the ship. The corridors were maze-like, confusing. Human thinking, Zixtal realized, was different from other species. Where other races built ships with logical, easy-to-navigate designs, humans seemed to pack everything tightly together, making use of every chime of space. They found what looked like living quarters, small rooms with bunks, personal items still floating in zero gravity. A photograph drifted past Zixtal's face. He caught it and examined it with his suit light. The image showed a creature with pale skin, dark hair, and a wide smile. Two young versions of the creature, smaller, sat on either side. A family, he realized. This was what humans looked like. "Captain, you need to see this," the second security officer called. Zixtal followed the voice to a massive chamber. It stretched the length of several city blocks, filled with row after row of cylindrical pods, thousands of them. His suit scanner reported that many still had power, and inside each one life signs. Zixtal whispered, "There are living creatures in these pods." Fell's voice crackled over the radio from the Prophet's Edge. "Captain, what you're describing sounds like cryosleep technology. Very old, very dangerous. If those pods still have power, the creatures inside might still be alive, frozen in time." Zixtal approached the nearest pod. Ice covered its surface, but he wiped it away with his gloved hand. Inside, he could see a face. It was peaceful, eyes closed, skin pale. A human, a real human, not a myth or a story, but a living being that had been asleep for centuries. "How many pods are there?" Zixtal asked. His security officer checked the scanner. 50,000, Captain. Give or take 50,000 humans. 50,000 creatures from myth sleeping in the void. Zixtal's mind raced. This was bigger than salvage. This was bigger than mining rights. This was a discovery that would change the galaxy. "We need to report this to the Coalition," he said. But even as he spoke, one of the pods began to hum. Lights flickered across its surface. The ice started to melt. Alarms blared in ancient human language, words that Zixtal's translator struggled to interpret. "Warning, pod malfunction. Emergency wake protocol initiated." "Get back!" Zixtal shouted, pushing his security officers away from the pod. The cylinder hissed and split open. Vapor poured out, condensing in the cold air. A figure sat up inside, gasping, coughing. It was a human female wearing a simple gray suit. Her skin was darker than the one in the photograph. Her hair was black and tied back. She looked around with confused eyes, then focused on Zixtal. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The human stared at the insectoid alien in his environmental suit. Zixtal stared at the living myth that had just opened its eyes. The human spoke. Her words came out rough, her throat clearly dry from centuries of sleep. Where am I? What happened to the ship?" Zixtal's translator worked frantically, converting the ancient human language into something he could understand. "You're on your ship," Zixtal said carefully. "We found you drifting in space. How long have you been asleep?" The human looked at her hands, flexing her fingers as if testing whether they were real. "We launched. Cryosleep was supposed to last 50 years. We were going to the new colonies." "Is this the new colony? Why is it so cold?" "What is your name?" Zixtal asked. "Commander Sarah Chen," the human said. "United Earth Space Navy. Serial number. It doesn't matter." "Where are the colonies? Where is the escort fleet?" Zixtal didn't know how to answer. How could he tell this creature that she had been asleep for 800 years? That the galaxy she knew was long gone? That her species was considered a myth? "Commander Chen," he said slowly, "I need you to stay calm. Something went wrong with your ship. You've been asleep much longer than 50 years. Sarah Chen stood up on shaky legs. She was shorter than Zixtal, but there was something in the way she moved, something predatory and efficient. "How long?" "We believe approximately 800 years. The human went very still. Her face showed no emotion, but Zixtal could see her hands clenching into fists. 800 years, she repeated. "That's not possible. The navigation systems would have woken us. The emergency protocols. Your ship has been drifting in dead space," Zixtal explained. "Far from any star system. There was nothing to wake you." Sarah Chen walked to a control panel on the wall. She pressed several buttons, and miraculously, A screen flickered to life. Ancient human text scrolled across it. Zixtal watched as her face went from confused to shocked to something harder, something cold. "The war," she said. "What happened with the war?" "The core Dominion was attacking our colonies. The fleet was supposed to meet us at New Terra." "Are we at New Terra?" Zixtal felt his heart sink. "Commander Chen, I don't know how to tell you this. The Kree Dominion fell 600 years ago. The wars of the first expansion are ancient history. The galaxy has changed completely." Sarah Chen turned to face him. "You're not human. What species are you?" "I am Vexum. My name is Captain Zixtal. I command a mining vessel. We found your ship by accident. Where are the other humans? Where is Earth?" Zixtal clicked his mandibles nervously. "Commander, in the modern galaxy, humans are considered myths. Most species believe you never existed. I'm looking at something that scholars said was impossible." Sarah Chen's expression hardened. "We're not myths. We're not stories. There are 50,000 people on this ship. 50,000 humans who left Earth 800 years ago and are supposed to wake up in a new home." "What happened?" Zixtal asked. "Why did humans disappear?" Sarah was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "First contact went badly. The early encounters with alien species were violent. Both sides made mistakes. Earth decided to stop expanding to close its borders. We called it the Silence. But some of us didn't want to give up on the stars. Ships like this one, the Perseverance, were sent out to establish colonies far from Earth, away from the politics and the fear. And you were going to sleep until you reached your destination." Zixtal said. "Yes, but something went wrong. We must have drifted off course." Sarah looked at the thousands of sleeping pods around them. These people, they have families. They have dreams. They've been asleep for 800 years. What kind of galaxy are they waking up to? Zixtal didn't have a good answer. The Galactic Coalition was peaceful mostly, but it was also rigid, controlled by the hierarchy. New species were carefully monitored, their expansion restricted, and humans, if the old stories were even partially true, were not a species that accepted control easily. "I should contact my superiors," Zixtal said. "The Galactic Coalition needs to know about this discovery." Sarah Chen looked at him with sharp eyes. "Will we be safe? If you're a coalition, will they treat us as people or as curiosities?" It was a fair question. Zixtal didn't know the answer. "I will do everything in my power to ensure you are treated with respect," he said. "But, Commander, you must understand. You represent something that the galaxy thought was impossible. There will be fear. There will be questions." "We've been asleep for 800 years," Sarah said quietly. "We've already lost everything we knew. Our families on Earth are long dead. The world we left behind is gone. All we have is this ship and each other." She looked directly at Zixtal. "We didn't come this far to be locked up or studied like animals." "I understand," Zixtal said. "Give me time. Let me contact the coalition carefully. We can do this the right way." Sarah Chen nodded slowly. Then she looked at the thousands of sleeping pods. "I need to wake my senior staff. We need to assess the situation, repair what we can. If we're going to face this new galaxy, we need to be ready." Zixtal left the ship with his security officers, his mind racing. As they returned to the Prophet's Edge, he began composing his report. But he knew that once he sent it, everything would change. The galaxy would learn that humans were real. And from the old stories, from the warnings passed down through centuries, Zixtal knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was not ready for humanity to wake up. On Perseverance, Sarah Chen stood alone in the cryo chamber, looking at the sleeping faces of her people. She touched the glass of a nearby pod and whispered, "I'm sorry. You were supposed to wake up to paradise. Instead, you're waking up to the unknown. But we're alive, and we're still human. That has to count for something." The ancient ship's lights flickered around her, and in the darkness of space, Humanity began to stir after 800 years of silence. The news spread through the Galactic Coalition like fire through dry grass. Within hours of Captain Zixtal's report, every species in known space knew that humans were real. The reaction was chaos. On the Coalition's central station, a massive ring structure that orbited a neutral star. Representatives from 47 species gathered in an emergency session. The chamber was enormous, with seating arranged in a spiral that allowed everyone to see the central platform. The air buzzed with dozens of different languages, all filtered through translation devices. Inquisitor Velshaw stood at the center, her reptilian scales gleaming under the lights. She was a member of the Sour, one of the 3 elder species that formed the hierarchy. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. Order. "We will have order," she hissed. The chamber fell silent. "We face an unprecedented situation. A species we believe to be extinct or fictional has been discovered, alive and intact. The question before us is simple. What do we do with them?" A 4-armed ambassador named Threk raised one of his hands. "Surely we welcome them as we would welcome any new species. They are refugees lost in time. We should offer aid." Aid. Belshaw's eyes narrowed. "Ambassador Tolrek, have you read the historical records? The accounts from the first expansion. Humans were not peaceful refugees. They were warriors, aggressive, territorial, and dangerous. Those records are 800 years old, Thorek argued, and most scholars believe they were exaggerated. We cannot judge these people based on ancient propaganda." The insectoid representative clicked his mandibles. "The records also show that humans defeated the Kree Dominion in 7 major battles despite being technologically inferior. They won through tactics that other species considered insane. Suicide runs, boarding actions, using their own bodies as weapons." Belshaw nodded. "Exactly. And now we have 50,000 of them alive and unaccounted for. We must move carefully. I propose immediate quarantine of their vessel and mandatory genetic testing to verify their claims." The chamber erupted in argument. Some species agreed with Velshaw's caution. Others felt she was being too harsh. In the confusion, nobody noticed the small figure who had slipped into the observer's gallery. Sarah Chen watched the aliens argue about her people's fate. She had managed to get aboard the station through Zixtal's help. Though he had warned her it was risky, she wore a simple pressure suit with a helmet that covered her face. To the casual observer, she looked like just another station worker. She listened carefully. Her translator device was old, but it still worked as she heard Vela speak about quarantine and testing. Her jaw clenched. They wanted to treat humans like lab specimens, like animals to be studied. On the Perseverance, Sarah had woken 15 more people. Her senior staff, engineers, doctors, security officers, and scientists. Together, they had assessed their situation. The ship was damaged, but repairable. The reactor still worked. More importantly, they had weapons. Old weapons, primitive by modern standards perhaps, but functional. Dr. Marcus Webb had been the one to suggest caution. "We can't fight the entire galaxy," he had said. "We need to be smart about this." Sarah had agreed. But she had also made it clear that humans would not surrender their freedom. Not after sleeping for 800 years. Not after losing everything they had known. Back in Narration, the Coalition chamber, Vela was still speaking. "We will send a science team to examine the human vessel. They will take genetic samples, conduct psychological evaluations, and determine whether these creatures are genuine or some form of artificial life." "They're not creatures," a voice said from the gallery. Every eye in the chamber turned to look at Sarah. She removed her helmet, letting her black hair fall free. The chamber went absolutely silent. "My name is Commander Sarah Chen," she said clearly. "United Earth Space Navy. I represent the 50,000 humans aboard the Perseverance. And I'm here to tell you that we will not submit to your tests. We are not specimens. We are people." Velia recovered quickly from her shock. "Security, remove this human immediately." But before the security guards could move, Zixtal stood up from his seat. Inquisitor, by coalition law, any sentient being has the right to address this council. Commander Chen has broken no laws. Other voices joined in support. Talrek stood with his forearms spread wide. The captain is correct. Let her speak. Belchia's tail lashed in anger, but she nodded. Very well, speak, human. Tell us why we should trust you. Sarah walked down to the central platform. She moved with confidence, her boots clicking on the metal floor. When she reached the center, she looked around at all the different species surrounding her. 800 years ago, my people left Earth, she began. We left because first contact with alien species had gone badly. Both sides made mistakes. Both sides were afraid. So Earth closed its borders and stopped exploring. But some of us believed in the dream of the stars. We believed that somewhere out here we could build something better. She gestured to the chamber around her. We were supposed to sleep for 50 years. We were supposed to wake up in a new world, far from the conflicts and fears of old. Instead, we slept for 8 centuries. Everyone we knew was dead. The galaxy we knew is gone. We have lost everything except each other. The chamber was quiet. Some of the representatives looked sympathetic. Others remained suspicious. You call us dangerous, Sarah continued. You say we were warriors and killers. Maybe that was true once, but we were also explorers. We were also dreamers. We crossed our own solar system before we had proper engines. We survived on a world that most of you would consider too harsh for life. We did these things not because we were monsters, but because we refused to give up. Pretty words, Velia said coldly. But words are not proof. The historical records show that humans were responsible for the historical records, Sarah interrupted. Were written by species who feared us, who saw us as competitors. Yes, we fought wars. Yes, we defended ourselves. But did your records mention that humans also saved the latter colonies from the Kree invasion? Did they mention that human medical technology saved millions of Vexum from a plague? Zixtal clicked his mandibles in surprise. He had never heard these stories. Sarah turned to address the entire chamber. I'm not going to stand here and claim humans are perfect. We're not. We've made terrible mistakes. But we're also not the monsters you're afraid of. We're survivors, and right now all we want is a chance to live in peace. And if we deny you that chance, Belshar asked, if we decide that your presence is too dangerous. Sarah's expression hardened. Then you'll prove that the galaxy hasn't changed at all in 800 years, that it's still ruled by fear instead of hope. The chamber erupted in argument again. Some species demanded that humans be granted full rights. Others insisted on quarantine. In the chaos, Sarah caught Zixtal's eye. The Vexum captain gave her a small nod of approval. The debate went on for hours. Finally, a compromise was reached. The humans would be allowed to remain on their ship, but they would be monitored. A small delegation of coalition scientists and diplomats would visit the Perseverance to establish formal relations. In exchange, humans would share information about their history and technology. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than being locked up. Sarah agreed to the terms. Over the next few weeks, Sarah woke more of her crew. Engineers worked to repair the ship systems. Doctors checked on the health of those still sleeping. And slowly, the Perseverance came back to life. The coalition delegation arrived as promised. Among them was Dr. Marcus Webb, who had been woken specifically because he was a scientist and a diplomat. Marcus was in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. He spoke multiple languages, even before the translators, and he had a gift for making people comfortable. Marcus took charge of the negotiations. He gave the aliens tours of the ship, explained human culture, and patiently answered thousands of questions. The aliens were fascinated by everything. Human food, human music, human books. Things that seemed normal to humans were exotic and strange to species who had evolved differently. One of the coalition scientists, a floating creature named Fel, became particularly interested in human medicine. "Your healing abilities are remarkable," Fell said to one of the human doctors. "You recover from injuries that would kill most species." The doctor, a woman named Dr. Lisa Park, smiled. "Humans evolved in a tough world. Earth has strong gravity, dangerous weather, and lots of predators. Our bodies learned to be resilient." "Fascinating," Fell pulsed with curious colors. "We must study this further." But not all interactions were friendly. A group calling themselves the Purity Movement began protesting outside the Coalition Central Station. They carried signs with messages like "myths should stay myths and protect our children from the human threat." Their leader was a radical named Kresh, who gave speeches about how humans would corrupt the peaceful galaxy. Sarah tried to ignore them, but it was hard. Every day she saw the news broadcasts. Every day she heard the debates about whether humans should be allowed to stay. Some species supported them. Others wanted them gone. The breaking point came on the 32nd day after the discovery. A human security officer named Jake Rodriguez was on the Perseverance when 3 members of the Purity Movement snuck aboard, disguised as maintenance workers. They carried explosives. Their plan was to destroy the cryo chambers, killing the 49,000 humans still sleeping. Jake caught them in the corridor. He was alone, unarmed, and facing 3 armed terrorists. The aliens expected him to run or surrender. Instead, Jake attacked. The fight was brutal. One of the terrorists shot Jake with a plasma weapon, burning his shoulder. Jake didn't stop. He grabbed the alien's weapon and broke the creature's arm. The second terrorist shot him again, this time in the leg. Jake threw himself at the alien, knocking it down and disabled it with his bare hands. The third terrorist managed to activate the explosive device. It was counting down 30 seconds. Jake, bleeding and burned, crawled to the device. His fingers were shaking from pain and shock. With 15 seconds left, he pulled out the power core, deactivating the bomb. Security forces arrived to find Jake unconscious, surrounded by 3 captured terrorists, and next to a disabled explosive device. He had taken injuries that should have killed him, but he was still breathing. The incident was captured on security cameras. The footage spread across the galaxy within hours. Everyone saw it. The human fighting through injuries that would kill most species. The human refuses to stop even when shot multiple times. The human chooses to save his people instead of himself. The reaction was divided. Some species were horrified by the violence. They saw Jake as proof that humans were dangerous. Others were impressed. They saw him as a hero who had stopped terrorists. Velia gave a speech. "This is exactly what I warned you about." She said, "Humans are weapons disguised as people. They do not feel pain like we do. They do not stop like we do. They are a threat to the order we have built." But Thulrek gave a different speech. "I saw a person protecting his family." He said, "I saw courage and sacrifice. If that makes humans dangerous, then perhaps we need more danger in this galaxy." Sarah visited Jake in the medical bay. He was recovering, though the doctor said he would have scars. "You should have run," she told him. Jake managed a weak smile. "Not in my nature, Commander. Nobody threatens my people." "They're calling you a monster on the news," Sarah said. "Let them," Jake replied. "Better to be a living monster than a dead saint." Sarah laughed despite herself. That was very human thinking, practical, stubborn, refusing to give up. As she left the medical bay, Sarah looked out a viewport at the stars beyond. The galaxy knew humans were real now. They knew humans could fight. They knew humans could survive. The question was, what would the galaxy do about it? And more importantly, what would humans do if the galaxy decided they were too dangerous to live? On Coalition Central Station, Belcha watched the same footage of Jake Rodriguez for the 100th time. Her cold eyes studied every movement, every moment of human endurance. "They are weapons," she whispered to herself. "And weapons must be controlled or destroyed." She began making plans, secret plans, plans that did not involve the Coalition Council or its debates. If the other species were too weak to see the threat, then she would deal with the humans herself. The galaxy had forgotten why humans were feared. Velia would make sure they remembered before it was too late. The message arrived at 0300 hours ship time. Sarah Chen was still awake, reviewing repair reports when the communication system chimed. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to Ambassador Thal, but he looked frightened. "Commander Chen," he said quietly, "you need to leave now. I've learned that the hierarchy is planning something. Felchia has convinced the other elders that humans are too dangerous. They're going to issue an ultimatum tomorrow. Submit to complete control or be destroyed." Sarah felt her blood run cold. They wouldn't dare. There are 50,000 people on this ship. "They would," replied. "And worse, the Purity movement has been gathering support. They have ships, weapons. If the hierarchy doesn't act, the extremists will. Please, Commander, take your people and run. Go to the edge of known space. Hide until tempers cool." Sarah wanted to argue. She wanted to fight. But she also had a responsibility to her people. "How long do we have?" 12 hours. Maybe less. The Purity movement doesn't wait for official orders. They paused. "I'm sorry, Commander. I tried to stop this, but fear is stronger than reason right now." The transmission ended. Sarah sat in silence for a long moment. Then she activated the ship-wide intercom. All senior staff went to the bridge immediately. This is not a drill. Within minutes, her command crew had assembled. Dr. Marcus Webb, Jake Rodriguez, still limping from his injuries, Chief Engineer Tom Reeves, and 10 others. Sarah explained the situation. "We have two choices," she said. "We run or we fight." "We can't fight the entire galaxy," Marcus said. "We have one damaged colony ship against thousands of warships. We also can't run forever," Jake countered. "They'll hunt us. And even if we reach the edge of space, what then? We hide for another 800 years. Chief Engineer Reeves cleared his throat. He was a big man with oil-stained hands and a practical mind. "Commander, before we left Earth, this ship was equipped with weapons. Colony ships weren't supposed to be defenseless. I've been checking the systems. Most of them are still functional." Sarah looked at him sharply. "What kind of weapons?" "Railguns, missile batteries, point defense systems. Nothing fancy, but enough to defend ourselves." Reeves pulled up a schematic on the main display. The Perseverance was designed to be self-sufficient. That included protection against pirates and hostile natives. "Against pirates," maybe Marcus said. "But against a military fleet, we don't need to win," Jake said. "We just need to make them think twice." Sarah paced the bridge. Every choice led to danger. But running meant accepting that humans would always be hunted. Fighting meant risking everything. "There's another option," she said slowly. "Before we left Earth, we weren't the only colony ship. There were others. Different destinations, different routes. If they had the same navigation problems we did, Marcus understood immediately. They might still be out there, lost in space, sleeping just like we were." "How do we find them?" Reeves asked. Sarah smiled grimly. "We broadcast. We use every communication array on this ship, and we send a message to every corner of this sector. We tell them humanity is awake. We tell them to come home. That will tell the galaxy exactly where we are." Marcus warned. "They already know where we are." Jake pointed out, "We might as well make some noise." Sarah made her decision. "Do it. Send the broadcast on all frequencies, and Reeves, get those weapons online. If they want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The broadcast went out at 400 hours. It was simple, transmitted in old Earth languages that had not been heard in the galaxy for 8 centuries. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Perseverance. To any human colonies receiving this message, we are awake. We are alive. The galaxy knows we exist. If you can hear this, respond. If you can travel, come to these coordinates. Humanity needs to stand together." The message repeated every 60 seconds, and then they waited. On Coalition Central Station, alarms blared. Communication officers scrambled to track the source of the strange broadcast. Linguists worked to translate the ancient languages. When they finally decoded the message, panic set in. She's calling for more of them, one analyst reported to Vela. If there are other human colonies out there, if they respond, Velia's eyes gleamed with cold fury. Then we must act now before they can gather. Prepare the security fleet. We will destroy the Perseverance before reinforcements arrive. But she was too late. The broadcast had been timed perfectly. Within 2 hours, responses began coming in. The first response came from a signal only 60 light-years away. A rough, barely coherent message. This is the colony ship Defiance. We receive you, Perseverance. We are waking our crew. We're coming. Then, another response. And another. By dawn, 12 separate signals had been detected. 12 human colonies scattered across the forbidden sectors. All waking up, all responding to Sarah's call. The galaxy watched in shock as the sensors tracked the movements. Human ships were powering up. Human vessels that had been dead in space for centuries were coming to life, and they were moving toward the Perseverance. The Purity movement decided they could not wait. Crash, their leader, gathered every ship he could. 40 warships from a dozen different species, all united by fear of humans. They jumped to the coordinates where the Perseverance waited. Sarah watched them arrive on her sensors. 40 ships surrounding her position. She had woken more of her crew. 2,000 humans were now active, manning stations, preparing for what was coming. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported. Put them through, Sarah ordered. Kresh's face appeared on the screen. He was an amphibian species with bulbous eyes and green skin. Human ship Perseverance, you are in violation of Galactic Coalition space. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Sarah stood calmly. Behind her, her bridge crew worked at their stations. We have violated no laws. We are refugees. We have a right to exist. You are a threat to galactic peace. Crash spat. Your very existence destabilizes our society. Surrender now, and you will be treated mercifully. No, Sarah said simply. Crash blinked in surprise. No, you are one ship against 40. You cannot win this fight. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. You don't know what you're dealing with. You think humans are myths and stories. You think we're weak because we were asleep. You're wrong. She leaned forward. This is your only warning. Leave now or face the consequences. Crash laughed. Brave words from a dead woman. All ships opened fire. The Purity fleet opened fire. 40 ships unleashed their weapons at the Perseverance. The space around the colony ship lit up with energy beams and missiles, but the Perseverance had been ready. Point defense systems came online, shooting down missiles. The ship's shields absorbed the energy weapons, and then the humans returned fire. The railguns had been designed for defense against small threats, but Chief Engineer Reeves had made modifications. He had increased their power, adjusted their targeting systems, and loaded them with every piece of metal he could find. When they fired, chunks of solid metal accelerated to incredible speeds. A Purity ship exploded as a railgun round punched straight through its hull. Another ship lost its engines to a missile strike. The humans fought with a precision that shocked their attackers. "They're actually fighting back!" one of Kresh's officers shouted in panic. "Impossible!" Kresh stared at his displays. "They're a colony ship. They shouldn't have these weapons." But humans, as the galaxy was learning, were full of surprises. Jake Rodriguez led a team in one of the Perseverance's old shuttles. It was a crazy plan, insane even, but it was very human. The shuttle accelerated toward one of the enemy ships at maximum speed. "Shuttle, you will be destroyed," the enemy captain warned. Jake's response was to fire the shuttle's small weapons and increase speed. At the last second, he and his team used emergency escape pods to abandon the shuttle. The unmanned craft slammed into the enemy ship at high velocity, tearing a hole in its side. Before the enemy could recover, Jake's team had crossed the gap in their suits and entered through the breach. They moved through the enemy ship with brutal efficiency. Humans fighting in close quarters, using weapons designed for boarding actions. The aliens had never experienced anything like it. "They're inside the ship," the enemy captain screamed. "How are they inside?" Within minutes, Jake's team had captured the bridge. The enemy ship surrendered. Across the battlefield, the Purity fleet was in chaos. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they faced an enemy that refused to die. An enemy that fought with tactics they had never seen. An enemy that turned every disadvantage into a weapon. And then the other human ships arrived. 12 colony vessels dropped out of FTL in formation around the Perseverance. They were battered, old, damaged, but they were armed and they were angry. The largest ship transmitted a message. "This is Captain James Park of the New Dawn. We've been asleep for 800 years. We woke up to find our people under attack. That was a mistake." His voice went cold. "All human ships are weapons-free. Show them why Earth went silent. The battle that followed would be studied for generations." 12 human colony ships and 1 damaged Perseverance fought 40 warships of the Purity fleet. On paper, the humans should have lost. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and using technology 8 centuries old. But humans did not fight like other species. They used ramming maneuvers. They coordinated in ways that seemed telepathic. They took damage that should have destroyed them, and kept fighting. One human ship, its engines dead and weapons offline, used its remaining maneuvering thrusters to crash into an enemy vessel. The pilot's last transmission was simple for Earth. The Purity fleet broke. Ships began retreating. Crush watched in horror as his forces scattered. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They're just refugees. They're not supposed to be warriors." But humans had never stopped being warriors. They had just been asleep. Sarah watched as the last enemy ships jumped away. Her bridge crew was cheering around her. 12 other human ships held position. 13 human colonies awakened and united for the first time in 800 years. She opened a channel to all the human ships. "This is Commander Sarah Chen. Welcome back to the waking world. I wish our reunion could have been under better circumstances." Captain James Park's weathered face appeared on screen. "Commander Chen, we've been monitoring galactic communications while we traveled. We know what's happening. The galaxy is afraid of us." "Yes," Sarah agreed. "Good," Park said grimly. "Fear keeps people honest. What are your orders?" Sarah looked around her bridge, at her crew who had fought so hard, at the other captains on her screen waiting for guidance. She thought about Earth, about the home they had left behind, about the galaxy that had dismissed them as myths. "We need to make a statement," she said. "The galaxy needs to understand that humans are not going away, that we have a right to exist, that we will not be controlled or destroyed. We could run," one of the other captains suggested. "Take our ships to the edge of space, build our own civilization away from all this." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We ran once. Earth went silent because of fear. I will not let fear control us again. We stay. We fight if we must, but we stay." The other captains nodded agreement. 13 human colonies representing over 600,000 people still sleeping, all united behind one decision. They would not hide. They would not run. On Coalition Central Station, Velia watched the battle reports with cold rage. The Purity fleet had been destroyed. Humans had proven they could fight. Worse, they had found each other, united. She called an emergency meeting of the hierarchy. "This has gone too far," she told the other elders. "We must act with our full military might. We must destroy these humans before they become a true threat." The other elders were hesitant. "The public opinion is divided," one said. "Many species are impressed by the humans' courage. If we attack them now, we will look like aggressors." "Better to be called aggressors than to be dead," Velia hissed. "I propose we send the Vanguard Armada, 300 ships, the finest vessels in the galaxy. We will crush the humans and end this threat once and for all." After long debate, the hierarchy agreed. The order was sent. The Vanguard Armada would deploy, and this time, there would be no mercy. Sarah received the warning from Zixtal. The Vexum captain had been risking much to keep humans informed. "Commander, they're sending their main fleet. 300 warships. You need to run. Even with 13 ships, you cannot win this fight. Sarah looked at the data. 300 ships. The full might of the Galactic Coalition. It was impossible odds. She smiled. Zixtal, have you ever heard the old Earth saying, "If you want peace, prepare for war"? I have heard it now, Zigtal replied nervously. We're not running, Sarah said. Tell your coalition that humans are done hiding. If they want a war, we'll give them one. And when it's over, they'll remember why Earth went silent. Not because we were afraid, but because we were dangerous. The transmission ended. Sarah turned to her crew. Wake everyone. All 600,000. We're going to need every person we have. Where are we going, Commander? Marcus asked. Sarah pulled up a star chart. At its center, marked in blue, was a small yellow star. We're going home. We're going to Earth. And we're going to show this galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Sarah woke all 600,000 humans from their long sleep. The colony ships were not designed to hold so many active people at once. They were cramped, crowded, and chaotic, but humans adapted, as they always did. Dr. Marcus Webb worked tirelessly to help people adjust. 800 years was a long time to be asleep. Many people woke up confused, grieving for the world they had lost. Others were angry. All of them wanted answers. Sarah spoke to them in groups, explaining what had happened. Tehe galaxy they woke to was not the one they had left. Species they had known were gone. Enemies had fallen. And humans were considered myths. What do we do now? A woman asked. She was young when she went to sleep. Everything we knew is gone. We adapt, Sarah said simply. That's what humans do. We adapt, we survive, and we build something new. They want to kill us, a man shouted. The news says the galaxy is sending a fleet to destroy us. Yes, Sarah admitted. They are, and we're going to stop them. How? Another voice called out. We're refugees, not soldiers. Sarah looked across the crowd. You're right. Most of you aren't soldiers. You're engineers, doctors, teachers, farmers. You came out here to build new lives, but you're also human. And humans have something that the rest of the galaxy has forgotten. We don't give up ever. She pulled up a hologram of Earth. The blue and green planet hung in the air, beautiful and distant. This is where we came from. Our home. We left it 800 years ago, but Earth is still there. And I believe there are still humans on Earth. We're going home. We're going to show this galaxy that humanity is not extinct, that we are not myths, that we are real, and we are here to stay. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Others joined in. Within seconds, the entire room was cheering. While the colony ships traveled, Jake Rodriguez organized the humans into defense forces. Many had no military training, but Jake was a good teacher. He showed them how to use the old weapons, how to fight in the cramped corridors of a spaceship, how to survive. Most species train for war and theory, Jake explained to a group of recruits. They practice on simulations and firing ranges. Humans train differently. We train like our lives depend on it because they do. Earth is a dangerous planet. Everything on Earth evolved to compete, to fight, to survive. That's in our blood. One of the recruits raised a hand. But the aliens have better technology, better weapons. How do we fight that? Jake smiled. By not fighting their way, they'll expect us to follow their rules, use their tactics. We won't. We'll do what humans have always done. We'll improvise. We'll adapt. We'll use everything as a weapon. He held up a piece of pipe. In the right hands, this is just as deadly as any energy weapon. Maybe more because they won't see it coming. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Tom Reeves worked on the ships. He pulled apart systems, rebuilt them, improved them. The human ships were old, but Reeves made them better. He found ways to boost the engines, increase the weapons output, and strengthen the shields. The aliens build their ships to last, Reeves explained to his team. They're designed for long-term use with safety systems and backup systems. That makes them reliable, but it also makes them predictable. He grinned. Our ships were built by humans who knew they might have to fight. We're going to remind the galaxy what human engineering looks like when we stop worrying about safety ratings. The Vanguard Armada was already on the move. 300 ships, the pride of the Galactic Coalition. They represented 40 different species, each contributing their best vessels. The fleet was commanded by Admiral Zethar, a veteran of a dozen campaigns. He had never lost a battle. These humans will surrender, Zethar told his officers. When they see our fleet, they will understand the futility of resistance. We will accept their surrender. Place them under protective custody, and this crisis will end. His second-in-command was not so sure. Admiral, the reports from the Purity Fleet battle were disturbing. The humans fought with unusual tactics. They showed remarkable resilience. They fought against extremists and mercenaries, Zethar replied. We are the professional military of the galaxy. There is no comparison. But as the Vanguard Armada approached the humans' projected course, they received troubling news. The humans were not running. They were not trying to hide. Instead, they were broadcasting their position openly and heading directly toward Earth. They're going to their home world, Zethar's tactical officer reported. They must believe Earth will protect them. Earth is a dead world, Zethar said. The records show humans abandoned it 800 years ago. There is nothing there. Should we intercept them before they reach Earth? The second-in-command asked. Zothar considered. No. Let them reach Earth. Let them see that there is no help coming. Let them understand that they are alone. Then they will surrender. It was a decision he would regret. The 13 human ships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system. Sensors immediately went active, scanning the inner planets. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, her hands gripping the console. Report, she ordered. The sensor officer's voice shook with emotion. Commander, I'm reading multiple energy signatures in Earth orbit. Lots of them. There are space stations, satellites, and ships. He looked up at her with tears in his eyes. There are people down there, billions of them. Earth is alive. The bridge erupted in cheers. People hugged each other. Some cried. After 800 years after believing they were the last humans in the galaxy, they had come home to find Earth thriving. Sarah opened a communication channel to Earth. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Perseverance. We are human colony ships returning from the first expansion. Please respond. There was a long pause. Then a voice replied, speaking clear English. This is Earth Defense Command. Welcome home, Perseverance. We've been watching you through our deep space probes. We know what's happening out there. The voice paused. We've been waiting for you to come home. Sarah felt relief wash over her. Earth, we have a problem. The Galactic Coalition is sending a fleet to destroy us. 300 ships. They'll be here in less than a day. We know, the voice from Earth replied. Don't worry, Commander. We've had 800 years to prepare. Earth did not go silent because we were afraid. We went silent because we were getting ready. Let them come. The human ships moved into Earth orbit. As they did, Sarah saw what had been hidden from the Vanguard Armada's scans. Earth's defenses. Massive platforms orbited the planet, bristling with weapons. Satellites that could launch missiles filled near Earth space. On the ground, targeting systems that could reach into orbit and ships, hundreds of ships, sleek and modern, built with 8 centuries of human ingenuity. My God, Marcus whispered. Earth built an entire military force in secret. Not in secret, the Earth commander explained over the comm. In silence. There's a difference. We stopped talking to the galaxy, but we never stopped preparing for the day they might come back. The Vanguard Armada arrived 18 hours later. They dropped out of FTL in formation. 300 ships arranged in perfect attack formation. Admiral Thar opened a communication channel. Human vessels, this is Admiral Zar of the Galactic Coalition Vanguard Armada. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, Sarah responded. Admiral, this is Commander Sarah Chen. You are in the Sol system. This is human space. You are the ones who need to leave. Zethar laughed. Commander, I have 300 ships. You have 13 ancient colony vessels. This is not a negotiation. You're right. Sarah agreed. It's not a negotiation. It's a warning. Leave now, or face the consequences. You cannot be serious. That said, what consequences could you possibly have? He stopped speaking as his sensors updated. New contacts were appearing. Hundreds of them. The human ships that had been hidden in Earth's orbital network revealed themselves. Earth's defense platforms activated, showing their true power. And on Earth itself, missile silos opened. ADM, Zethar's tactical officer reported in a shaking voice. I'm reading over 500 human warships, multiple weapons platforms, ground-based defenses. Admiral, Earth is a fortress. Zethar stared at his displays. This was impossible. The record said Earth was abandoned. That humans had vanished, but instead they had been building, preparing, waiting. This changes nothing, Zohar said. Though his voice lacked confidence, we still outnumber them. But the Earth commander's voice came over the open channel. Admiral, you're in our home system. You've threatened our people. You've come here with weapons and demands. That was your first mistake. The voice went cold. Your second mistake was thinking we were the same humans you met 800 years ago. We're not. We've had 8 centuries to think about first contact, 8 centuries to improve, 8 centuries to plan for the day someone threatened Earth again. If you attack, this will mean war, Zethar warned. War with the entire galactic coalition. Then war it is, the Earth commander replied. All human vessels, you are weapons-free. Show them what 800 years of Earth engineering looks like. The battle began. The human ships moved with a coordination that shocked the Vanguard Armada. They did not stay in formation like civilized fleets. They scattered, attacked from multiple angles, used tactics that seemed insane, but worked perfectly. The Earth defense platforms fired weapons that the aliens had never seen. Kinetic kill vehicles that accelerated to impossible speeds, directed energy weapons that could melt through shields, missiles that tracked their targets with AI that predicted every move. And the colony ships, the 13 ancient vessels that had started this whole crisis, fought with a fury that terrified their opponents. They had less sophisticated weapons, but they used them with creativity. The Perseverance deliberately took damage to get close to an enemy ship, then fired at point-blank range. Jake Rodriguez led boarding parties onto enemy vessels. The aliens were not prepared for humans fighting in their corridors. Most species avoided close combat. Humans specialized in it. This is wrong. One alien officer screamed as Jake's team stormed the bridge. This is not how civilized species fight. We're not civilized, Jake replied, disabling the officer with a stun weapon. We're human. There's a difference. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ships exploded. People died. The space around Earth became a graveyard of metal and fire. But slowly, inevitably, the Vanguard Armada began to lose. They were not losing because of technology. The coalition ships were more advanced in many ways. They were losing because of tactics, because of unpredictability, because humans fought like they had nothing to lose. Admiral Zethar watched his fleet crumble. Ship after ship reported damage, retreat or surrender. This was supposed to be a simple peacekeeping mission. Instead, it had become a massacre. Admiral, we must retreat, his second-in-command urged. We cannot retreat, Zakar replied. To retreat would be to admit defeat. The entire galaxy is watching. Better to retreat in defeat than die in pride, the officer argued. Before Zethar could respond, his flagship shook from an impact. Alarms blared. Report, we've been boarded. Humans are on the ship. That could not believe it. Boarded, in the middle of a space battle. It was madness, but he could hear the sounds of fighting outside the bridge. Energy weapons firing, shouting in languages his translator could barely parse. The bridge doors exploded inward. Through the smoke, a figure walked in. Commander Sarah Chen, wearing an old-style spacesuit carrying a weapon that looked like it belonged in a museum. "Admiral that," Sarah said calmly. "I'm here to accept your surrender." Zethar's hand moved toward his sidearm. Sarah's weapon tracked the movement. "I wouldn't," she advised. "I've been awake for about 6 weeks after 800 years of sleep. I'm tired. I'm angry. And I really don't want to shoot you, but I will if I have to." Sikar looked around his bridge. His officers were disarmed, surrounded by human soldiers who had somehow fought their way through his entire ship. He looked at Sarah, this small creature who had caused so much chaos. "How?" he asked. "How did humans become this?" Sarah smiled sadly. "We didn't become this, Admiral. We've always been this. Your records just forgot. Or maybe they tried to forget. Humans are persistence hunters. We evolved chasing prey until it died of exhaustion. We turned that instinct toward the stars. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We just keep going until we win or die. The galaxy will not accept us," Zar said. "You have defeated one fleet, but there are thousands of ships, millions of soldiers." "Then they can come," Sarah replied, "and we'll defeat them too, or we'll die trying. That's the human way." She gestured to his communications console. "Order your fleet to stand down, Admiral. This battle is over." Zar hesitated. Then he looked at his displays. Over half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans were winning, and they were not stopping. He gave the order. The Vanguard Armada withdrew. 300 ships had arrived to crush humanity. Less than 200 limped away. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Earth, the forgotten world, had revealed its strength. Humans, the myths and legends, had proven they were very real and very dangerous. On the bridge of the Perseverance, Sarah looked at Earth through the viewport. I was home. Finally home. But she knew this was not over. "They'll be back," Marcus said quietly beside her. "I know," Sarah replied. "But next time they'll think twice before threatening us." "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Sarah thought about the 600,000 humans in the colony ships, about the billions on Earth, about the galaxy that feared them. "Now," she said, "we teach the galaxy what it means to live alongside humans, whether they like it or not." The news of the Vanguard Armada's defeat spread through the galaxy like wildfire. 300 ships, the finest fleet ever assembled, had been beaten by a species that was supposed to be extinct. The reaction was chaos. Some species called for immediate retaliation. Others demanded peace negotiations. Many simply did not know what to think. The hierarchy, the 3 elder species who had ruled the galaxy for centuries, faced a crisis unlike any they had known. On Earth, Sarah Chen walked on solid ground for the first time in 800 years. She had been born on Earth, had grown up under its sky, and then left it behind to chase the dream of the stars. Now she was back, but everything had changed. The Earth she returned to was different from the one she remembered. Cities had grown, technology had advanced, but the people were still human. They welcomed the colony ships with joy and celebration. Families reunited, though separated by 8 centuries of time. Stories were shared. Tears were shed. Sarah met with the Earth Council, the governing body that had led humanity during the long silence. The council chambers were deep underground, built to survive any attack. The 7 members sat in a semicircle, watching as Sarah entered. Commander Chen, the council chairman, spoke. He was an older man with grey hair and sharp eyes. "Welcome home. We've been following your journey. What you did out there, waking the colonies, uniting humanity, it was remarkable." "It was necessary," Sarah replied. "The galaxy wants us dead or controlled. I refuse to accept either option." "We know." Another council member said she was younger, a military officer by her bearing. "We've been preparing for this day since the silence began." When Earth closed its borders 800 years ago, it was not out of fear. It was a strategic decision. We needed time. Time to build, time to strengthen, time to be powerful enough that no alien species could threaten us again. Sarah looked at each council member. You've been planning this for 8 centuries. You knew the colony ships were out there. The chairman nodded. We knew. We sent those ships ourselves before the silence. We hoped you would reach your destinations, build new worlds. When you disappeared, we mourned you. But we never stopped watching the galaxy. We never stopped preparing for the day when humans would need to face the aliens again. And now that day has come, Sarah said. Yes, the military. Officer agreed. The hierarchy will not let this defeat stand. They will regroup. They will send more ships. We estimate we have maybe 6 months before they try again. 6 months to prepare for war, Sarah said. Or 6 months to make peace, Dr. Marcus Webb spoke up. He had accompanied Sarah to the meeting. There must be species in the galaxy who don't want this conflict. Species who would be willing to negotiate. The chairman looked at Marcus thoughtfully. There are. Our intelligence suggests that many species are uncomfortable with the hierarchy's aggression. The Ambassador Thulrek, for example, has been speaking out against the attacks. And Captain Zixtal, Sarah added. He helped us from the beginning, risked his career to protect us. Then we use them. The military officer said, we build alliances, show the galaxy that humans can be partners, not just threats. Sarah shook her head. Sarah shook. It's not that simple. The galaxy saw what we can do in battle. They saw us defeat the Vanguard Armada. Fear doesn't build partnerships. It builds resentment. Sometimes fear is necessary. The chairman said, the galaxy needs to understand that humanity cannot be pushed around. But you're right, Commander. Fear alone is not enough. We need to show them who we really are. Over the next weeks, Earth launched a massive diplomatic effort. Messages were sent to every species in the Galactic Coalition. The message was simple. Humanity did not seek war. Humanity wanted peace. But humanity would defend itself without hesitation. Some species responded positively. 3 people, the philosophical 4-armed species, offered to mediate. Zixtal's Vexum reached out with messages of friendship. Others remained hostile, led by Inquisitor Velshaw, who continued to call for humanity's destruction. Sarah spent her time working with the colony ship crews. 600,000 people needed to be integrated into Earth society. Some wanted to stay on Earth. Others wanted to establish new colonies on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, or in other systems. Earth had expanded significantly during the silence, and there was room for everyone. Jake Rodriguez had been offered a position in Earth's military. He accepted, training new soldiers in the tactics that had proven so effective against the aliens. We need to be ready, he told his recruits. Peace is great, but peace only lasts when people know you can fight. Dr. Marcus Webb became Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Coalition. He traveled to Coalition Central Station with a small delegation. It was a risky move. Anti-human sentiment was still strong. But Marcus believed in the power of dialogue. When he arrived at the station, security forces surrounded him. Inquisitor Velia was there, her cold eyes fixed on him. You dare come here, she hissed. I come in peace, Marcus said calmly, to offer the Coalition a chance to avoid further conflict. You defeated our fleet, Belshur spat. You humiliated the hierarchy, and now you speak of peace. We defended ourselves, Marcus replied. Your fleet came to our home system with weapons and threats. What did you expect us to do? Roll over and die? He looked around at the assembled aliens. Humans do not want war, but we will not be controlled. We will not be destroyed. We want to live in peace with the galaxy, but that peace must be based on mutual respect, not fear. Ambassador Thalrek stepped forward. The human speaks wisdom. We cannot undo what has happened. We can only decide how to move forward. The hierarchy's approach has failed. Perhaps it is time to try a different way. The debate lasted for days. Species argued back and forth. Some wanted to send another fleet larger than the first. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested simply leaving humanity alone, quarantining the Sol system, and pretending humans did not exist. Finally, a proposal emerged. It came from an unlikely source, Admiral Zethar, the commander who had been defeated at Earth. He had been disgraced by his loss, but he was still respected as a military mind. "We cannot defeat humanity through force," Zethar said. "They have proven that. We also cannot ignore them. They exist. They are powerful, and they will not hide." He paused. "I propose a treaty. Humanity joins the Galactic Coalition as a sovereign member. They are granted full rights, including the right to defend themselves. In exchange, humanity agrees to abide by coalition laws regarding expansion and warfare." "You would give them equality?" Belshaw demanded. "After what they did, after what we forced them to do, that was corrected. Inquisitor, I fought them. I saw their ships, their tactics, their determination. If we continue on this path, we will have a war that will destroy both sides. Better to have humans as reluctant allies than as desperate enemies." The proposal was put to a vote. It passed barely. Many species voted against it, but enough voted in favor that the motion carried. The Treaty of Sol was signed 3 months after the Battle of Earth. Sarah Chen represented humanity along with members of the Earth Council and the colony ship commanders. The signing took place on Coalition Central Station, with representatives from all 47 species present. Sarah stood at the podium looking at the assembled aliens. Some looked at her with respect, others with fear, a few with hatred. But they all looked at her as an equal now. 800 years ago, Sarah began, humanity left Earth because first contact went badly. We were afraid. You were afraid? Both sides made mistakes. So, Earth went silent and humans disappeared from the galaxy. She paused, but we never disappeared. We were just sleeping, waiting, growing, and now we're awake. She looked directly at Belshaw. Some of you still fear us. Some of you think we're monsters. Maybe you're right. Humans can be dangerous. We evolved in a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight to survive and to never give up. Those instincts are in our DNA. But we're also capable of great kindness, great creativity, and great loyalty. On Earth, we have a saying, we're only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. That's true for humanity, and I believe it's true for the galaxy. She held up the treaty. This document says that humans are equal members of the Galactic Coalition, that we have the same rights and responsibilities as any other species. It's not perfect. There will be problems. There will be conflicts. But it's a start. Humanity is home. We're here to stay, and we're ready to build a future with all of you. A future where species work together instead of fighting, where differences are celebrated instead of feared. Sarah smiled. We came from a dangerous world. We survived 800 years of sleep. We fought off 2 fleets. If we can do all that, surely we can learn to live in peace. The treaty was signed. It was not a perfect peace. Many species remained suspicious of humans. Belshaw continued to speak against humanity at every opportunity. The purity movement went underground, but did not disappear. But it was a beginning. Over the following years, humans slowly integrated into galactic society. Earth established embassies on Coalition Central Station and on the home worlds of friendly species. Human merchants began trading with aliens. Human scientists collaborated on research projects. Human artists shared their culture. Some humans left the Sol system to establish new colonies. This time the galaxy watched and allowed it. Other humans stayed on Earth content to be home, and the colony ships. Those ancient vessels that had sparked everything were turned into museums, monuments to the long sleep and the awakening. Sarah Chen retired from active duty. She had done her part, waking humanity and securing its future. Now she wanted to rest. She moved to a small town on Earth's coast, far from the cities and the politics. One day, Captain Zixtau visited her. The Vexim had become one of humanity's strongest advocates in the coalition. He had even learned to speak English without a translator. "Commander Chen," he said, finding her on the beach watching the sunset. "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all," Sarah said. "And it's just Sarah now. I'm retired." Zixtal settled next to her, his insectoid body adjusting to the sand. The galaxy is still adjusting to humanity's presence, but things are improving. Trade is increasing. Tensions are decreasing. "That's good," Sarah said. "That's what we fought for." "I wanted to thank you," Zixtal said, "for trusting me at the beginning. For seeing me as a person, not just an alien." Sarah smiled. "You earned that trust. You helped us when nobody else would." They sat in silence for a while, watching the waves. Finally, Zixtal spoke again. "Do you think it will last, this peace?" Sarah considered. "I don't know. Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We'll work for peace, but we'll also stay ready just in case." "Very human thinking," Zixtal observed. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "Very human." Far above them in orbit around Earth, the defense platforms remained active. The fleet stayed ready. Earth had learned its lesson from the silence. Peace was valuable, but strength made peace possible. On Coalition Central Station, in a classroom where young aliens learned about galactic history, a teacher discussed recent events. A student raised a tentacle and asked, "Teacher, are the stories about humans true? Did they really defeat the Vanguard Armada?" The teacher who had fought in that battle paused. "Yes," they said quietly. "Every word is true. Humans were myths for 800 years. Now they are real, and they are our allies." The teacher looked at the young student. "But remember this lesson well. Humanity did not seek conflict. They were forced into it. They would have preferred peace, but when pushed, they pushed back harder than anyone expected." "Are they dangerous?" another student asked. "Yes," the teacher said honestly. "Very dangerous. But so are all species in their own way. The question is not whether humans are dangerous. The question is, are they our friends or our enemies?" The teacher smiled. "Thanks to the Treaty of Soul, they are our friends, and I pray to whatever gods exist that it stays that way." In his private chambers, Inquisitor Vela watched recordings of human ships, human tactics, human victories. She had lost the public battle. The treaty had been signed, but she had not given up. "One day," she whispered to herself, "the galaxy will see that I was right. One day, humans will show their true nature, and when that day comes, I will be ready." But that day would not come because humanity had learned from 800 years of silence. They had learned that isolation solved nothing, that fear led only to conflict. They had learned to be strong without being aggressive, to be ready without being hostile. And most importantly, they had learned that they were not alone, not anymore. Humanity had rejoined the galaxy, and this time they would stay. On Earth, Sarah Chen planted a tree. It was a memorial, one of thousands. Each tree represented a human who had died in the battles. Each tree was a reminder of the cost of peace. As she dug into the soil, feeling the earth under her hands, Sarah thought about the journey, the long sleep, the rude awakening, the battles, the victories, the losses. "We made it," she whispered to the tree. "We're home. We're safe. And we're here to stay." Above her, the sky was clear and blue, the same sky that had watched humanity evolve from primitive hunters to star farmers. The same sky that had seen humans leave and then return. And in that sky, barely visible even in daylight, were the stars. Humanity had gone to the stars once before and been forced back. Now they were among the stars again. But this time, they were not running. They were not hiding. They were standing tall, equal partners in the great galactic community. The myths had become real. The silence had ended, and all hell had broken loose. But when the dust settled, when the battles ended, When peace finally came, humanity was still standing, still surviving, still refusing to give up. Because that was what humans did. They persisted. They endured. They adapted. They were human. And nothing in the galaxy would ever change that.